Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on WhoKnewPodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at WhoKnewPodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at WhoKnewPodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today's episode is the fourth of the 2008 to 2010 specials entitled The End of Time Part 1. The Ood prophecy that the Doctor's song will end when he knocks 4 times is drawing near. Can the Doctor stop it, or is his death a fixed point in time? This episode is written by Russell T. Davis, directed by Euros Lyn. It originally aired on the 25th of December 2009 and was watched by 11.57 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, this is Frank.
This is Josh.
Hello, this is Auburn.
Hey, this is Brian.
It's Christmas time once again, and Donna Noble's grandfather, Wilf, is out shopping. He is drawn to a church by the singing of a choir. Inside, he sees the image of the TARDIS in one of the old stained glass windows when a woman approaches and tells him of the mystery of the blue box. In the 1300s, a demon fell from the sky, followed by a man in a blue box who defeated it. It is said that that man will return. Then she disappears without a trace. Suddenly, the image of the Master laughing resonates in Wilf's head.
The idea of the demon falling to Earth and then the Doctor showing up to battle with it reminded me of Tooth and Claw. Past people. And I told that to Brian. He says, because then I looked it up. And Tooth and Claw, they're saying that came down in 1540. And this is supposed to be in the 1300s. But it's like, then that started me going, well, what else in this episode are kind of flashbacks or ideas that were started in other episodes that they're kind of hinting at now? So I'll talk about those that I've seen, and wondering if anybody else had seen any as well.
Well, my first thought was red demon falling from the sky was the end of the next episode, but that wasn't in the 1300s. So I'm like, yeah. When that happened, I was trying to rack my brain, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to think of it now. Let me pay attention. I kind of forgot about it, so you just said it.
It hasn't happened yet, because when I tried to find out if she was referring to anything particular, it could be a Doctor that's coming up.
That's true.
Yeah, it's just a story. It's not a callback to anything.
Okay.
So
I kind of like that if that's the case.
Yeah,
Plus, the Doctor gets another title. I like the Sainted Physician.
I like the opening narration in this one. It's different. It's somebody we haven't heard before in the show.
Yeah.
And I like the sweeping graphic shot or effect shot of the planets, and then it goes into Earth. And I just wrote down the pagan rite to banish the cold and the dark.
Yeah, that's great.
I just like the image that paints in my brain.
And Timothy Dalton has a great voice for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I liked it, and I recognized the voice, but
They
why
hired
do they have a narrator for this part that we don't know who this person is?
They hired Timothy Dalton to be the narrator? That's a lot of money.
When I originally saw this, I was so confused throughout part 1 and part 2. And now watching it now, everything was perfectly clear to me, and it hit me much more emotionally. I'm not a big fan of of part 1. Part 2, very much I am, but I wasn't really lost. I was like, but in watching it, I was kind of like, well, no wonder I was lost. It's almost like this was written for people who were so in the know, and back then I was more of a casual fan, in between casual and fan. So it was interesting to watch it now, getting everything, and realizing why I didn't like it back then. I still have my issues with it.
It's a very convoluted, twisty plot that
it
really has to tie itself into knots to work.
The best parts of this episode, not the two-parter, but part 1, are for diehards.
Which is fine when you're going to be doing the last episode.
Yeah, no, I don't knock it at all. In fact, why would you start watching a show when the main, But, we'll get into more of it.
So speaking of Frank's, callbacks to other things, when Wilf has the memory of the Master coming back, he says they forgot because they must. It reminded me of Love and Monsters. You forget because you must.
That's a joke.
That's the same line used in that.
I know,
That
is
was
it
an
out of
actual
the
line? I
episode
thought it was
for
just
us to
Eugene's
forget Love and
joke.
Monsters, or is that actually used in the episode Love and Monsters?
Yes to both.
Okay.
I think I'm the only one who likes that episode.
I like
Until the
it.
ending.
Yeah.
Outside of seeing Wilf for the first time, I think in a little bit, like that was a good emotion. At the church, he's in front of a war memorial. Like there's names
Yes.
Yes.
For
behind
those
him.
who gave their lives for their country.
Right,
Yeah.
which I think does a really good job of setting up like both of these parts. A lot of people are pondering their own demises and what does it mean to be a soldier? What does it mean to die? What does it mean to give your life for something bigger? So that was cool to see that. And as an American, you know, I don't get to see the European side of a lot of these memorials and remembrances. So it was interesting to see that in a church where it was a very large plaque of names. And, you know, I don't think I've seen that in the U.S. anywhere. And is that because, like, here, I couldn't see, like, a list of names at a...
Well, the Vietnam Memorial.
Right, but that's
rare.
That's
they
a
do it everywhere
big-
over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on their monuments, they'll etch the names of people
Okay.
all over the place.
Because they probably had more local connections. Like, those are people that died from that town.
yes.
Okay. Like I know the Vietnam War Memorial, but like I don't see that as local things here in the U.S. And Wilf would be of the age of World War.
No,
No, World
he's
War
a
One?
little young for
Okay.
World War II.
Okay.
Little young.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that's true.
They
Yeah.
did work it out. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
yeah.
Yeah, but not in the episode.
But it is a bit of a also foreshadowing what Wilf will be facing his,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what he's going to be, you know, dealing
Yeah.
with. In what is it to be a hero? What is it to give and sacrifice yourself for someone, for something, for some idea, for the country, for the planet?
Speaking of locations, that street that he's walking on has been used before in other episodes. It's where Rose and Mickey were shopping, where the Santas attacked them, and it's also in Runaway Bride.
Oh, yeah. Finally answering Ood Sigma's telepathic summons, the TARDIS arrives on the Ood sphere. It's been 100 years since he and Donna were on this planet, and the Ood have progressed much faster than they should have in that time. The entire Ood psyche has been troubled by strange dreams, and the Elder Ood says the Doctor should not have delayed. They link with him and reveal visions of those dreams, which consist of the Master laughing, Wilf in distress, and two people he does not recognize. They also show visions of a woman picking up the Master's ring after he died, and Lucy Saxon, the Master's widow, in prison. The Ood tell him that something is coming and bleeding through time, allowing these visions. They herald the end of time itself. The Doctor runs back to the TARDIS. I do like the "it's time to get out of Dodge" moment, which is he's not what he's doing. He's running to the problem, but it is just like I got to get out of here.
Well, we mentioned Timothy Dalton as a guest star, and now we have another guest actor. Do you recognize the Elder Ood's
He looks
voice?
familiar, but I couldn't quite place him.
His voice is Brian Cox.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm like, whoa,
funny.
this is crazy. You got like two like heavy voice like acting guys.
And for those of you who don't know, he was the bad guy in X2, the Colonel or the
Striker.
Striker.
He played was it John McKee, the screenwriter. McKee,
That's right, he did
in
a
adaptation. He was the headmaster in Rushmore.
I was hoping he'd speak to the big brain. I wanted to see the big brain again. The Ood brain. It's like they have the Elder,
The Elder has a big brain, bigger than every other Ood.
but the whole idea of
I
the
know, it's
Ood
not
was that
the
they're
big
all connected to it. Now, why do they have a central Elder?
Well, they've
It's like
evolved.
it changed.
Well, that was the thing,
But
though.
it changed so much, so that could be why the Doctor had the problem.
But they talked about how much they evolved in 100 years, so that could have been part of that.
Also, the brain links them all. The brain never really talked, I don't think. Even in the evolution, I don't think it was going to talk. It's like, but this is the Ood leader.
I still wanted to see the brain.
Well, yeah, I'd like to see the brain too, but it's on the top of the Elder's head.
We also get mentions of other adventures that we don't really see. The Doctor comes onto the Ood planet and he mentions the one that I guess we will see. He mentions that he got married,
It's a good Queen Bess.
and that's gonna.
Her nickname is, well, no longer accurate.
And we saw her in the Shakespeare Code,
Yes, where she was angry at the Doctor.
and then he doesn't know why, and then we'll find out why in the 50th anniversary.
He names a galaxy Alice.
Allison?
Allison? Something
Now
like
listen.
that. And a few other things when he was running after the end of Waters of Mars.
Yeah, and it looks like he just came from some sort of Polynesian
Yeah.
vacation excursion planet.
And he's in his happy-go-lucky attitude, but you can tell he's putting it on. That's where David Tennant's really good, where he's like, oh yeah, I don't have a care in the world. Oh no.
Oh, something I noticed when he's realizing that the Ood shouldn't be this advanced, they do a camera movement across him, and it's very blurred.
I
Did you
think that's
notice that?
stabilization.
Okay, because I was wondering why they did that, but it's probably the program or
Yeah,
software.
it looks like they probably had rails that they were moving the camera on, and the rails weren't as smooth as they would have liked. So that kind of shimmery
Yeah.
shimmer on his face. Like
Yes.
I've seen that a lot with shaky footage that is then stabilized in post, gets
Okay.
that weird blur effect.
And then they have to crop in a little bit to take care of the edges.
Yeah. So if you look, there's like a few stages of it. So I think it might have been like maybe a joint in the track itself, or just moving
Good,
that
okay.
quickly. Like it just is bumpy.
I'm glad you had that answer because I kept thinking, that was this a creative choice to make him look like he's distressed in what's going on? But that makes sense too.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Okay, cool.
It always bugs me when I see that.
Yeah.
For me, the whole mystery of the Ood evolving quicker, there's no payoff to it.
Yeah, now that you mention it.
It's just kind of like, oh, that sounds interesting, but we never really go back to it.
I think their purpose was just to set him on his path.
And it is, yes.
Yeah.
But the way they wrote it for me
Right.
was kind of made it
Yeah.
sound like there's more to this.
The whole episode is written that way, in this way that it seems like you're supposed to know.
Yeah.
Like there's more subtext than there actually is.
Yes, very much
And
so.
it's not subtextual, it's referential. So it doesn't really mention what it's talking about. And that seems like subtext that will come back because we're so used to that type of storytelling.
I wonder if some of the additional mystery, maybe because the exterior shot that they're impressed by, while it is cool with the snow, like rocks and towers and little Oods walking, like to me it's not like, oh my goodness, that's such an amazing city that you guys built.
Yeah, I mean, I felt
in
the same.
100
I was
years.
like, oh, that's cool. And then it was supposed to be...
Like the doctor seemed impressed by it,
Right.
And I wasn't. So maybe they added more just to
Well,
make it more impressive.
We've never seen we don't see the before. We only see the after.
Well, I think it's the same exterior
As Planet of the Ood?
as Planet of the Ood the last time we saw
Yeah,
them,
but come
but it's not a very good one. Right, like it's recognizable, but it's not like all of a sudden you see a bunch of Ood high rises and apartments and
And as a
Well, I
viewer,
think-
it's been a year and a half since we've seen that
Yeah.
planet, so it's not something that
I think...
we're expecting to be.
Right.
But I think that the script and his performance sell the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this two-part episode is for fans. In retrospect, I don't mind it, but yeah,
There's a lot of-
But it takes you out of the moment because you're like,
Yeah.
what? Oh, okay. That's the whole way I watched this episode. The first time I watched it was what? Oh, okay. What? Oh, okay.
And I watch it when you get to the end, and then you watch it the second time, and you're going through it and go, they never resolved. Oh, I bet somebody wrote a book.
Right.
And it's like, we shouldn't really be thinking that,
No.
you
Yeah.
know? And it once, sure. But there's a lot of instances in this where it's like, does that have a point?
Yeah, it's hard with television, especially shows that run this long. Obviously they wrote this two-parter as one story and really stretched out that first half in a quarry. And someone on the set, it's just like, this episode's gonna rock. Shut up, Ralph.
We take him for granted.
I did like the Ood circle and kind of like the candles and the incense smoke, the religious symbolism, but I like how they wrapped it all up to get all of this exposition out to the audience and to the doctor within that kind of vision quest sort of situation.
Yeah. On Earth, the woman who picked up the Master's ring now takes Lucy from her cell and brings her before the prison governor. The governor is a follower of the Master and plans to bring him back, but needs an imprint of the Master to finish her potion. She wipes Lucy's lips, which has kissed the Master many times. She tosses the handkerchief with the imprint into the concoction she created, and the Master begins to form. He draws the life from his willing followers to create his body. But Lucy knew he would try to return and had found out what his followers are planning. A guard hands Lucy a vial full of a counter potion, which she throws onto the forming Master, creating a huge explosion. Later, the TARDIS arrives on top of the prison rubble, and the doctor steps out. He sees that he is too late. Across town, a billionaire, Joshua Naismith, and his daughter Abigail, the couple from the Ood Vision, watch a security tape of the burning prison. They noticed that someone has survived.
Watching it with Kelsey, she immediately was like, oh, they let her have lipstick in prison? Like, that was an odd choice.
This whole sequence is fun to watch because it's action packed and it's like, oh wow, we're getting the master back. And I like Lucy when she gets her comeuppance and she suddenly turns. But if you start thinking of the logic behind it, it just falls apart completely. Weren't you lucky that the one guard who was in league with you was standing close enough to you so that you could get the potion?
Well,
and why couldn't she just throw the potion? Which wouldn't be dramatic, I get it, but you have to give her that moment of saying, ha ha ha, I know you. It just
That the guard being there doesn't necessarily bump me, because if the guard is waiting for this to happen, then she's gonna make sure she's there. But
Right,
the
agreed.
biological DNA still on her lips years later or whatever. And
see, and that sort of gobbledygook doesn't bother me in science fiction.
I mean, I accept it because it's okay, whatever, it's science fiction.
Right.
But then what actually bothered me the most was how she looked genuinely frightened out of her mind, and then she had a backup plan, and it was just
There's that moment where she flips a switch on her face,
yeah.
where she's like, "This is terrifying me. I'm glad I planned for it."
Yeah. And I get you need that for the drama of it, and
Yeah,
stuff like
and when you're
that.
going along with it, you're just-
it's fine.
Yeah,
But
you're riding the
I
ride. You're
literally-
like, "Yeah, get him," and then
It's not too good that she didn't know if the backup plan would work.
True, but
I mean,
still.
She found out about it because of the guard.
But
and
the
it was like,
change in her
totally
expression.
agree. But it's the change in
If
her
she still
expression.
did it,
She's
like,
so confident.
frightened out of her mind, like now, like maybe like a Hail Mary, pardon the pun, you're in a church, but although they were in prison, same thing. To change, turn on such a dime, that's what took me out of it.
I will give them credit, though, for Lucy saying, I may be stupid, but my family's not. Because they wrote Lucy in the earlier episodes. Granted, she was drugged out like crazy, but not the sharpest tool in the drawer.
Her family, I missed that.
She's like, I may not have been very smart, but my family is, and they're well connected. And they're the ones who developed they're the ones
I
who
missed that.
found
Okay.
the Book of Saxon, which apparently he wrote.
Ancient books
Yeah.
of Saxon.
Yeah, he wrote in his spare time after cabinet meetings. And they developed the antidote to this thing.
The counter potion.
The counter
It's not
potion.
Counter potion. Antidote's probably trademarked.
And again, it's like they are still throwing so much exposition, tying this plot into
Yeah.
knots so that it works, that you're sitting there going, wait, what?
Here's another one of those references that I saw is that the Master's ring to me seems similar to the pocket watch, where it holds some essence of him.
And I really, it's like I thought about the lipstick and I
It-
was
it-
laughing.
it has to be some visual-
Visually,
Yes.
they needed something
Yes.
for the
you
audience.
need to see what was going
You
on.
But
know,
he
and
always
so-
wore the ring. Wouldn't the ring have that on too? But then in the flashback with the Ood, which I thought was a great way to get everybody up to speed as to
yeah.
what happened.
The
Yes.
kiss.
He was kissing her
Yeah.
hard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was,
He was laying on
Oh,
some
yeah.
DNA.
well, at least over a year of that DNA
Yeah.
being applied.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
They had to swab her tonsils.
The effects though at this the potion and like the coven, it reminds me a lot of witchcraft type movies, with the blue lightning and the women coming together to perform a rite over something. I mean, they definitely, both of these episodes, I feel like they were very ambitious with the effects work. And
pulled it off mostly.
Yeah, no, hearing this, like I felt it. There was one of the guards, I think, was leaning back a little bit funny. Like if you rewatch it, she's on the left side of the screen. Yeah, she's really committed.
Yeah, that's what it is. She's really committed.
Yeah, where everyone else wasn't quite as committed, but I did like it. It was fun.
There's bit of a Scooby-Doo element to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it again, this is a kid show for adults, so I enjoyed it.
This is also the beginnings of John Sim masterclass in non-subtle acting.
But I like that he was coming back as the Master that we knew.
That's
when
true.
he was first
Yeah.
coming back, that was
That was
the Master.
the master, yes.
Right.
One thing that I like, you saying the good special effects, the one effect that I do like in this scene is where the Doctor runs from the interior of the TARDIS to the exterior of the TARDIS and the rubble of the Broadvale prison. I was just amazed at how it was like one continuous shot, and I'm not sure how they would have done that, because it's clearly the interior and then they matched his forward motion to the exterior.
There was a couple
really good.
TARDIS shots in both of these parts that are really good. Like, I don't know how they did them all, but they were thinking, they weren't just showing a black interior to the TARDIS. Like, you could always see something that looked like it had a lot of depth.
Oh, what did we think of the car alarm?
Oh, that's fun.
It's fun. I'm glad it didn't stay.
I mean, then they do the snap of the fingers later on or whatever.
Earlier. Yeah.
That was earlier?
Yeah, Silence in the Library.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, it's...
With the car alarm, it's funny because he does it as a gag. But then when he gets his mission is
Yeah.
now there, he
Yeah,
goes
he
in,
doesn't have to stop.
he clicks it again, and I was like, this weird like handheld dramatic camera motion, and then click. But tonally, I'm like, oh, there's a joke in this dramatic thing.
That's
and I'm like,
true.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention was Joshua Naismith was previously hinted at in Planet of the Dead because there was this advertisement sign on the bus, the damaged bus when it hit the Planet of the Dead, and it had Neon by Naismith, a new phone. So we can kind of see where he's getting his money from and things.
He's also a Martian.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, so that actor, since we're talking about it.
And Manhunter.
And a Manhunter.
So Joshua Naismith is played by David Harewood, and he's
He's got no hair. He would like some.
Yeah, there.
and he's currently in Supergirl as John Jones or the Martian Manhunter,
These kids are very short.
Oh, okay.
Group.
or sorry, Hank Henshaw.
Oh, yeah.
Hank
They don't
Henshaw.
call him that.
That's
anymore,
right.
Was he on Luther? Was he,
The other thing I know him from is Blood Diamond. He played Captain Poison.
He's been in a lot of things.
Did you find anything?
Yeah, the big show that David Harewood was on was Homeland. I don't know how many seasons he was on, but he was one of the main characters in the first few.
And Claire Bloom is the actress who's the mysterious woman, and she's a very famous British actress from the
Yeah, I was-
50s, 60s, 70s, all
Oh,
the way
yeah.
on.
I think we would know Claire Bloom best as Hera from Clash of the Titans.
Oh, get out. Okay.
She's also Queen Mary in The King's Speech, if you remember that.
I have to watch
I
it
thought.
again.
Thank you. I keep thinking it's like she's Queen Mary, but she's not. I was thinking The Crown. She's Queen Mary in The King's Speech. Thank you. I needed that.
The master, when he is coming back and he says like I'm never dying or something to that effect, like that's echoed, or in some senses it's pre-echoed by Timothy Dalton's character that we'll get to
Yes.
later.
It's a theme, yeah.
And so because of the circular nature of this, do you think the president or Rassilon's, like that's because of Rassilon doing that? I mean, obviously the whole Masters like thing is because of that, but is that specific thing like a connection to their personalities?
I mean, it could be,
Yeah.
but it's not here nor there.
Yeah.
It also could be just the time war has taken the effect on these people.
Well, I mean, definitely the Master always wanted to live. He's definitely one of those villains that I want to live forever, and I've run out of regeneration, so I'm going to steal somebody else's
yeah.
body and get regenerations again. I'm going to make a deal with the Time Lords to get more regenerations, all that kind of stuff. So for him, when he's waking up and he's like never dying, I mean, he's like, it worked. So that's how I took that, and that fits perfectly in with the theme of the episode, which Rassilon echoes. That's how I see it. The Master survived Lucy's attack, but was vastly altered and now needs to devour anything and everything to maintain energy. He is randomly phasing between himself and a skeletal being. He finds a food truck at a junkyard, kills the owners and customers, and consumes them. He senses the Doctor is coming for him. The Doctor arrives at the junkyard and chases the Master, but loses him when Wilf and his Silver Cloak gang arrive. Wilf and the other seniors have had bad dreams, so Wilf gathered them together to scour the city for any trace of the Doctor. Wilf and the Doctor go to a coffee shop to talk about dreams and death. They see Donna with her fiancé through the window. She's doing all right. Wilf asks if she can travel with him again, but the Doctor reminds him that if she remembers, her mind will burn, killing her. He tells Wilf that he's been traveling alone since she left and is feeling very lonely.
The connection to Sarah Jane Adventures is that meal truck. There's an episode where Clyde has to run away and he's sort of homeless for a little bit, and he goes to eat at the same meal truck. It's the same
I remember that
like
one.
chain or service.
So I found this, I found it way too comical. And I don't know, I mean, it
Over
was...
the top,
Yeah,
gross,
it was, I don't
needless.
I think John Sim is so over the top that they needed to shoot it more subtly, but all the I get what they were doing, but it just didn't work. The only thing that sold it for me was the acting of the older homeless guy. It was so frightened that, and you could sense like, this guy's crazy, kid, let's get out of here. Like, that's what sold it for me.
I mean, the joke was almost talk about fast food, as he's just devouring it and they speed up the film.
I did like how the older fellow said that the young kid doesn't talk, and then the first time he talks, it's because he recognizes him, John Saxon.
Harold
Saxon. So, which that brought that much more attention to that point. So I thought that was really well done. And again, watching it again this time, knowing how annoyed I was about it before, I didn't mind it so much, just in the grand scheme of things. I mean, he's sort of, basically, this incarnation of the Master is the Joker. It's how I kind of see him. So, which I'm not a huge fan of this. He just doesn't seem threatening any more than a loose cannon.
Right.
I just couldn't take him seriously because of his acting.
But I don't think he was acting poorly. I just think it was a
No,
poor
it's just,
choice.
it was a poor, and written and filmed and
Directed,
Directed, yeah.
directed in that
He
direction.
gave what I think they wanted him to give.
Exactly.
I kind of like the Gollum crazy acting.
Gollum?
Yes.
Yeah, he's kind of got that kind of like the
Yeah.
precious, it's mine kind of thing.
Cook the fish.
I do think it is more because I've now rewatched this a few times where I'm sure at first I was like, what is going on? And no, I know I was like, what is going on? Especially with the phasing to the skeleton and all the superpowers that he acquires. But on this last rewatch, I really liked it because he is giving his all to do this character.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like everything that he did in this episode, I give that actor credit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, later on too.
Like even
Oh
with
my
the
gosh.
eating and going,
Yeah.
like he definitely sells it. But I just don't like the choice of
Yeah.
that, of what they do, and I'm used to it now, so I was able to enjoy the episode more.
Speaking of the Wilf and the silver cloak, Wilf puts on the 2 antlers again. Did you notice
Yes.
that? And his red cap. That was his personal red cap, and I think those are his personal 2 antlers. But on the red like wool knit cap, it has a paratrooper badge from when he served. That's
that's nice.
his.
The actor.
Oh.
Bernard
Wow.
Cribbins is actual, I guess, commendation. And so that's carried over from his first appearance in Voyage of the Damned. It's consistent because he brought all his own wardrobe and props.
And what war was Bernard Cribbins in?
He was probably World War II or Korea.
Yeah, probably Korea.
Well, he says he was in Palestine.
That's,
That would be-
yeah.
Wilf
No,
says
but
No,
that's his
that's
true,
Wilf.
true story,
okay.
and they used it for
That's
this.
his story? He was
Uh-huh.
in the part, oh my. Wow, okay. And that was 48, so that was right after World War II.
I guess he was just really young.
What do you mean?
What conflict would that have been?
Palestinians and the Jews.
No, but is that still World War II?
No.
That's what I'm
Well,
asking.
No, it was the creation of Israel. So British Palestine was ended, and the United Nations created Israel. And the Palestinians went, "We live here," and the British controlled that
Yeah.
land, so they were pulling out, and it was very violent.
You know, I just thought it was some conflict that, like the Boer War. You know what I mean? Like something
Yeah.
that's specifically British.
Yeah, like everybody else either approved or disapproved, but that's all they did because it was one of the first tests of the UN, and it certainly did not work.
I like the idea of the Silver Cloak gang. I thought that was fun. I thought the only reason they found the doctor so quickly was because of that, and some person lives across from the prison and saw it happen. Knew that they were all looking for this blue box that was supposed to be showing up.
I like how they know what the blue box is. You know, it's a police box like the old days.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And Minnie got caught in one
That's right.
on a bank holiday.
Right.
That was an unused idea for Partners in Crime. Like Wilf had a story with like Donna's return, and then they just X'd it and put it in here.
Oh.
And then Minnie sexually assaults the doctor.
Yes, she
Yes.
is.
It's all in
Minnie the
fun.
Menace.
It's a sign of the times.
There is no all in fun anymore.
I know. It was a
That's
sign of the
unacceptable.
times. Even then, if that was an older man, they would have been, no more Benny Hill these days. Double standard going on.
It's funny to see Tennant's reaction when he just raises his voice, and the guy next to him on his right is like reacting as well.
And what's with the master and the doctor smelling each other?
I like how there's so much like visceralness to both of these. Like they are constantly smelling each other. There's hearing the drum beats, and it. I kind of liked it after watching it again, and I don't know if I would have noticed it the first time watching it. It made the connections between everybody much more like base, like they
like
weren't
primal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
primal. Like
Well, that's a good way to think
very
of it.
internal.
Because I take that as part of this doctor, the 10th Doctor specifically, his incarnation where he likes to taste things, and so he's using his other senses to now find the master. That's how I kind of took it.
I don't think I would have minded the master smelling the doctor because the master is all wigged out out now,
Right.
and going weird, and everything's being used way past its potential.
Right.
But they have the doctor sniffing in the junkyard too. It's like, oh, I don't think I like that.
I don't remember him doing that. I remember
does
the
it
master
once.
doing it.
He does it like at the top of a junk heap.
And
It's
and he
weird.
also has a line of dialogue, I think it might be in part 2, where he can smell that the master's still on Earth, but can't locate him like that specifically. I wonder if some of it is also with the two people that also had the sandwiches. The master mentions that he didn't regenerate, so he's in that same form. Maybe it's because the doctor has seen him and spent all that time in that form that, usually when you regenerate, everything is new and it wipes away all of those.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
It might even be like a psychic link.
really is. I'm sure that there was somebody in Russell's brain going, I need something quick and easy to explain how they can find each other so fast. We've already watched the master grossly eating everything, and now they're all just sniffing on screen. It's like, all right, enough. But making it visceral and primal, I like that. I'm going to remember that the next time I watch the episode. But before we move on, we have to discuss the
scene in the
scene
cafe.
in the cafe.
Yeah, that's what I was going to be like. Let's discuss that.
Yeah.
So the setting of this is an actual cafe that is in Swansea, and I think Russell used to hang out there. So I think
Swansea place?
yes, it's a place in.
It's way down behind the
I think it's
Swansea
Wales.
River.
I think it is in Wales.
It's far, far away.
When I originally saw that woman who ends up who was speaking to Wilford in the beginning, I was wondering if she was an old companion that I just didn't know about.
Yeah.
A lot of people were thinking several things along those lines.
Gosh, I wish we found out. Anyway.
And there's another instance that reminds me of a past episode, Midnight. The woman appears on a television behind them. It doesn't say anything, but she's just there for a bit and then she fades away. It reminded me of Rose behind the doctor in Midnight.
But anyway, the scene
So,
with
it's interesting when Wilf is like, oh, I'm small talk, and the doctor just starts with, who are you?
yeah. How did you find me so quickly? Captain Jack spends his whole time trying to find me, and you do it in like an afternoon. It's great.
It's just well done. I like that.
I get choked up almost every time I see like a heartfelt scene with Wilf.
Me too.
To the actor's credit, and just the relationship that was built between him and the doctor. And now, what hit me on a side note about this two-parter was he is the companion. He's not like the secondary companion. And we never had that before until this one, and he does such a great job. He's got such a presence, and when I was watching the end of the second part, I was pretty full on crying like you, but it's really his storyline. Like he's the first one you see, and he's almost one of the last ones you see, and it's his emotional storyline that sort of is our conduit to the doctor. So I think that's why it has such an impact in these two episodes.
Do they ever adequately answer why him?
No.
To me, they don't.
Yeah, they don't.
And to me, that's just something they did not need to put in. That was just another one of those information you don't need.
Well, does
it's
he-
like just having Wilf there doesn't need to have a big mystery to it.
I think it's sort of a rippling back in time idea that to spoil for a minute, spoiler alert, he's the one that knocks 4 times. To fulfill that prophecy, it kind of ripples back in time.
Can we go behind the scenes? Because originally it was not going to be him. It was just going to be the doctor saving
A random.
random person who's,
Right, but maybe
because we
they-
know that they're going to be trapped there,
Oh, okay.
and it's just going to be, which I think might have been better. Will he just save somebody?
Oh no, I
This has more emotional
Yeah,
weight and
yeah,
dramaticness to it. I get it, but I like for characterization, the doctor. No, this person is just an ordinary person working here.
still
I'll save him
Right.
or her.
Again, I think it was Russell sitting in his house going, I have to figure out a way that he constantly meets up with Wilf.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, no, you don't. But I just this whole thing seems he was so in his head the whole time writing this thing because it was so impactful for him. It was like, oh, this is the end. This is the end. This is the end. I gotta hit this one out of the park. And I think he just overthinks it. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I wish he could have taken a little bit of a break before writing this episode. But then again, there are some parts that are so fantastic, like in this scene where he says, I'm going to die. And
Wilf
says,
yeah.
me too. But the doctor says, don't you dare. And if you think about it, that's a great line for the doctor to be saying to Wilf because of what happened.
It's funny because there's a couple of scenes with just them that feel a little separate from the energy of the show. But looking at it now, that's what makes the end, for me at least, so powerful. These two-parters is a bit of a love story between the two of them. That's kind of how I was watching it this last time.
And since he asked the question, why you, Wilf? Why am I keep meeting you? I had to find an answer in my own head. The woman is projecting back, manipulating Wilf to be in the place he needs to be at the end. She's the one who's
in Voyage of the...
because of what she sees or knows or thinks she knows, she gets Wilf to be in that position, and so she keeps
the woman at the
manipulating
church.
Yeah,
the woman at the church.
Right.
That was the first time he ever saw her.
She's not in Voyage of the Damned.
No, I know, but maybe that was also part of her doing. Like, she kept positioning him in those places.
Maybe. I thought you meant that she was in Voyage of the Damned. No, she's
No,
not.
I'm thinking like if you,
He's adding to my story.
yeah, I'm adding on to what he was
Since my
saying.
theory,
Because that's what this needs, more exposition.
but to me that made more sense in the whole ripple
Right.
of time going
Right.
back. Because I didn't understand why she was even there talking to Wilf.
This is also the beginning where we get regeneration as death. It's the beginning of that where the doctor is so like another man. He does say another man, with a new face just goes off. And that is kind of new. They really hadn't gone so far with it before. It was just a change. And that was controversial. A lot of people didn't like how far that went. I did read something interesting, though, when I was researching this episode is we don't know it at the time. No one knew it at the time. But in hindsight, this doctor would know that his upcoming regeneration is his last. So he would know, after I regenerate, then I die. So it's leading up to his death. So it's like, it's too soon for me to regenerate for the very last time. How can I be regenerating for the very last time? And when I read that, it was like, that helps me in the portrayal of this being so much of a death.
In the last few episodes leading up to this, especially in the Tennant specials, he got a little megalomaniacal, self-admittingly. So it goes along with that
And this
journey.
is almost his karma.
Right, exactly. It goes along with that journey that he's been on. Someone who without a companion, became so self-important. Of course he's not going to want to leave his personality.
True, but this is extreme for Doctor Who in general, to have it be so much a death. No, it is like a death. It is like a death. And from all the interviews with Davis, he's like, it is a death. And then you hear interviews from Moffat going, it's nothing like a death.
It depends,
so,
yeah.
It's just the showrunner's take on things.
And when do we first hear that at this point the Doctor's a Time Lord only has 12 regenerations or 11, whatever it is?
It's in the classic, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in the classic series.
So that carried over.
I don't think they ever mention it.
Well,
But I don't think there's a point in the modern show where they say that a Time Lord only has 12 regenerations.
But in this scene, I think David Tennant really does a great job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
With
that's
what
a
he's
great
given.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy that he's having this conversation with Wilf and he's admitting like what he did wrong and like in Waters of Mars. Some of us didn't like that episode, and then now this is why it needs to be there, because he has to have this conversation.
Yeah, his break when Wilf asks him, like, well, how are you doing? And the doctor just breaks down for that split second. That's worth the whole part one.
And I thought it was a very real moment when he went, whew, Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Doctor tracks down the Master again and is shot with a bolt of electricity from the Master's hands. As they discuss the past, the Master says he is still plagued by the 4 drum beats constantly pounding in his head. He grabs the Doctor's head and is able to share the maddening noise with him. He's thrilled when the Doctor is shocked to hear it now as well. From overhead, a helicopter arrives and the soldiers kidnap the Master. They bring him to Joshua Naismith.
Great effects of the explosions behind Tennant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in the Confidential, he said it was hard not to look back.
Yeah, he doesn't react or pause or...
He was like, I could feel the heat on the back of my neck, and it's hard not to turn around. There was no helicopter there.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Spotlights?
they took a spotlight on a crane, and then they added in the audio, and then they repelled the 2 soldiers from the crane, and that was it.
Didn't have any shot of any helicopter at all.
No, because they were using their budget on the other effect shots, and they're like, we can't get a
I
helicopter.
just in my brain, I kind of remember a slight silhouette of a helicopter.
It filled it in
flying.
for you. Yeah.
It's funny.
But they did the same effect or the same budget saving technique in, I think, Aliens of London, when the helicopter goes over Mickey, Rose, and
Oh, yeah?
Eccleston.
That kind of stuff is great.
Oh yeah, I mean, I work on a computer animated television show, but we draw everything first, and then the computer animators and the layout people match our drawings and add to it. But coming from a history of traditional animation where you just draw whatever you need, everything in CG needs to be built like it was live action. There's a budget for all that. So like it was a very hard thing to wrap my head around, like, oh no, we don't have a spoon like that. We can't use that. You have to use a ladle or vice versa. So the idea of we had an episode on our show where the main characters were being chased by a bear. We never had a bear.
So you had to build a bear?
No, we never. Yeah, right. We had a paw that was built and 2 eyeballs that were borrowed from another CG show. And in After Effects, they built the silhouette of a bear to be seen through a waterfall. But if you watch that episode, you never see a bear. So whenever I hear about stuff
great.
like this, because that's so, and to see that type of ingenuity is very, for something so simple.
I love the joy on the master's face. When he realizes that the 4 beats that he's heard all his life are real, that it's not, it's just not in his head. There is really a physical cause for it, and he's so thrilled at that he literally jumps over the moon. It's like my favorite master moment in this episode.
And the doctor's response to that of, oh my God, they're real. Oh my God, they're real.
Yes, yeah. That whole thing.
What is it?
On Christmas Day, Donna gives Wilf a book written by Joshua Naismith. Wilf asks why this book, but Donna doesn't know. For a moment, it looks like she remembers something, but she brushes it off. Wilf prepares to watch the Queen's speech on TV, but a vision of the woman he met in the church appears on the screen. She warns him not to tell the doctor anything, but the doctor's life might still be saved if Wilf is willing to kill to protect him. Wilf grabs his old service gun and sees the doctor outside his house. He shows the doctor the book Donna gave him, and the doctor recognizes Naismith from the Ood vision. He and Wilf leave in the TARDIS to find Naismith.
Did she use the word take arms in this
Yes.
bit? Yeah. So
He'll have to take
I
arms.
think that's a very important phrase in her message. Not just that he'll have to kill.
Very soldier-like.
Yeah, so like that makes him think, I have to get a gun.
And I like his response, like, I didn't kill anybody during my time. Don't make that like it's shameful. That was great.
That was a
really
very
good.
well-delivered,
Yeah.
interesting take.
Until you said it, I never really thought about take arms. And because the doctor's weapons are words, Shakespeare. The way you said it, it just brought me back to that,
Very
quote in
Shakespearean.
Shakespeare. But she was always meaning
To have a gun.
Yeah.
Or a weapon, something.
Yeah, I think for her, she's like, that gun up in your trunk, go
Yeah,
get
go
it.
get
But,
it.
I can't say that because I got to be mysterious.
Right.
Which is a Webley pistol, which we've seen Captain Jack with. And it was a service pistol from 1887 to 1963. Wow. So that's where Captain Jack and Wilf would have gotten it in World War II.
And it's got a ring in the bottom, so during Christmas you can hang an ornament.
It's a it's a ring to put a piece of cord around it so you don't lose your pistol, and you would tie that to the holster.
Is it a paratrooper thing, or any soldier would have done that?
Usually officers have that.
Like the Brigadier has.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it like around their arm sometimes? Too? I've
Sometimes,
seen that.
sometimes around the neck, so you just don't lose it. Yeah,
You don't want a rope, because a rope tied around your neck when you're paratrooping. What could go wrong?
The trigger on this gun. When you are holding this gun and you are about to fire, it's filmed looking like the trigger has already been pulled back.
So it's a double action pistol.
Okay.
So when you cock the hammer back, it pulls the trigger back already.
Okay.
So it's in the ready fire position.
So then you release?
No, and
No,
then
it's
you
just that much closer to being
to being fired,
pulled.
and then you
Oh,
squeeze it again.
Like a hair trigger?
Yeah.
Is that what that means?
Yeah, well, kind of, because if the hammer is not cocked back, it's in that position that you're thinking
You'd know.
of.
Right.
You're
Okay,
thinking
Okay,
of.
you would know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you cock it, the trigger moves further back, and then you just move it a little bit to fire. Thank you. I knew you'd know.
The reason it's double action is because it's a revolver. So you cock the hammer back, it rotates
the
chamber,
chamber, yeah.
into the
Great. Thank you.
That's
I
why-
needed. It was brought up recently, and it was like,
They didn't seem to have very safe handling procedures for the gun in any of the scenes with the gun. Like,
kinda
I don't know if I'm just paranoid about guns, but yeah.
You are not an American, sir.
He is just holding that every which way, pointing it up, down, like stroking it, turning it around. It's just, have some respect.
He had a little nice bed for it.
So Merry Christmas, everybody, everyone
that's
is
right.
playing in this scene as well.
I've
Just
noticed
like,
that.
oh, it's back again, yay. And I like Sylvia in this scene, and it brings humanity to her.
Yes.
She's great in both of these episodes.
I mean, we've always hated her, because we only see the bad
And
side
in a
and what
good
she's
way.
She
know,
was really good in the Turn Left episode.
Yeah, but
But she's also berating Donna, being hard on her.
But I mean, the actress.
Oh yeah, the actress has always been good, but Sylvia,
The character.
The character.
Right, yeah. The character
it's just that
herself.
moment is great.
Well, first her and Donna are laughing over the card, and just you can see that they get together and they do like each other, and there is love there, which is really nice from all the other times we've seen it where it's only the animosity. And then when Donna comes out, are you yelling at thin air?
It's like, yes.
Yes, possibly. it's just.
But it's funny that they've switched places, whereas they used to try to keep it a secret from the
other one,
mother,
yeah.
and now the mother's
Yeah.
trying to keep it a secret from Donna.
That scene where they're laughing at the card, Catherine Tate's laugh just reminded me of the old Catherine Tate, and I thought of you saying like, old Donna. Like, that's
right.
old Donna, because she's reverted.
This is Runaway
Loud,
Bride.
Yeah,
obnoxious.
and that laugh is funny, but it's like really loud.
You're right.
I think Sylvia's laugh at that point really reminded me of the Masters, and I don't know if they
Oh, it
did
reminded
that.
me of Donna. I thought
Okay.
that's where Donna got her big laugh. It's like when Sylvia lets go, she's very similar to her daughter.
It is funny though. Right before after they're laughing at the card, and they have that little moment. They have another little moment where it's like, "Oh, this is lovely. Did you keep the receipt?"
Yes, of course I did.
And of course I did. And it's like, okay, there's Sylvia and Donna, but
But that's them.
But Donna's kept the receipt because she knows what Sylvia's like, and so it was very real.
And also when Sylvia goes outside and sees the doctor, what are you doing here? And Merry Christmas. Oh, Merry Christmas. No, what are you doing? Just delivered well, a lot of fun. And she's doing it more as not against the doctor, but more of trying to protect her daughter.
Yes, she's
She's like,
protecting
I
her daughter.
know what
She's
you
not-
said. You can't be here.
Yeah, she's not angry at the doctor anymore.
And Donna's still picking up, on what's needed and gets the book for Wilf. And that just,
So
it
nice.
tears at your heart a bit.
When Wilf is, I guess he's in the second story getting his pistol, the doctor like throws a pebble at the window, but it sounds like
Yes.
heavier than a pebble.
Yeah.
Because I expected there to be like a hole in the window or something else, and then he just looks out and the doctor's like, follow me.
Yeah,
like,
not the best Foley.
like, whoa.
Frank, you reminded me when you mentioned the music here, how much the music throughout both of these episodes takes that 4-beat drum beat and plays it in so many different areas, whether it's sound effects or even just the underlying music. Like they really, I know Eugene and you guys are a little more attuned to the music of the show and the series, but this was one where even I was like, oh wow, that beat is everywhere.
There's some great music, and especially the musical cues in this, like before the cafe scene. It's just that great swell when it ends, and then it's just, I don't know, Murray Gold really did a good job in these two. Naismith and Abigail bind the Master and show him an alien device, a type of gate. It is powered by a nuclear vault, which has 2 chambers. Naismith explains there must be a person in one of the chambers at all times to maintain the radiation for the gate. The only way that person can leave is to be released by someone in the other chamber, which in turn locks them in. The gate needs this energy because it can completely heal a person, but it's not currently working at full efficiency. Naismith wants the Master to repair the gate so that Abigail's body can be completely restored over and over again, granting her immortality. The Master agrees to work on the gate.
So what is the logic of the 2 booths? Does the person in one of the booths get healed, or
None.
None.
No, there is.
Is it just like a dead man switch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it has to be constantly monitored so that the radiation doesn't feed back and blow up everything. And so they need to, be sure that someone is there at all times. So they lock him in. And the only way for him to leave is for someone else to be locked in, be able to
Okay,
control
so
it so they can leave. So it's a fail-safe.
Fail-safe live monitoring system.
At least that's what the cacti or Vinvaci told me about it. So
So someone has to push the any key.
Right.
Between these 2 paragraphs, we had Wilfred's first entrance to the TARDIS.
Right.
which kind of blows by because
it's so quick.
It is so quick,
Yeah.
and we've known Wilfred for so long, and he's been on so many adventures. You would have thought that he had already been inside, but
What is his comment when he said?
I thought it'd be cleaner. Yeah. I love that. That's great.
That was a good little banter.
Yeah. But
I can still take you back.
And, Wilfred, the character of Wilfred, goes through a lot of these first throughout these 2 parts, but this one was very fun.
Yeah, he kind of does. First time in space, first time in the TARDIS. It's like he's been on the show as, like I said, a secondary companion, but his first time as the primary companion, he goes through every milestone of that, including what happens at the end of the next episode. So
Yeah.
he basically does a whole Doctor run in a 2-parter.
I'd never thought of it that way. That's brilliant. I've always liked the fact that Bernard Cribbins gets a opening credit in the title sequence.
Yeah.
And as much as I love her, but Catherine Tate doesn't.
Oh,
And it's just kind of like, okay, good. You gave Cribbins his due. And, Catherine Tate is more support.
yeah. He's definitely the co-star of this
Yes,
episode.
he definitely is. But you could see someone of Catherine Tate's stature,
Right.
especially the stature of the Doctor Who, you would think that any single time that she would be on from now on, she
I
would have
see.
an opening credit.
And I'm so glad they did it because then it also brings, when you see her, as something special. You weren't
Yeah.
expecting that, they can't get her, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked Saxon's reaction when he sees the gate and they're talking about, oh yes, it can fix a person, and you can just see he knows and already got his plan of what he can do with it, and that these people have no clue what they have in their hands.
And to me, I read that as conceit, like, I'm so great I can fix anything. So it read well either way.
Yeah, he does convey it to the fools. Because aren't they referred to as idiots and fools by the
idiots and
narrator?
yeah, because at first it's the king in the counting house, and then the idiots and fools.
Yeah, so that's like, these people are, he can convince them really easily. There's nothing he'd be able to convince them that he couldn't do.
And there's a throwaway line where he got that technology. Do you remember that? He got it from
Where
Torchwood.
Naismith got,
Yes,
Yeah.
that ship on the base of Mount Snowdon was really packed with devices.
I was like, okay. Like, you just wonder, where did he get that? And he just goes from Torchwood and Mount Snowdon. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
fine.
that's like the 4th time they've referenced
Yeah.
this ship at Mount Snowdon.
Coming up, when the Wolf and the Doctor arrive.
You mean Wilf?
Did I say Wolf?
You said Wolf.
Oh.
He's rather bad.
Big bad.
When Wilfred and the Doctor arrive, is that location, do you know anything about
Yes,
that?
that
Is
is
it the next Doctor's?
Yes, the same
Okay.
stable as the Jackson Lakes.
It looked like it
location.
so
Yeah.
much. I mean,
Yeah.
didn't look like they really changed it at all. It's like, wait a minute.
It's the one where the TARDIS cloaks, if you remember that. But the funny thing is that David Tennant is allergic to horses, so he couldn't stay in that location for very long.
Oh.
Also, with the Naismiths, I think we learn here that they're trying to also get immortality for Abigail. So, all of the main characters here, except for Wilfred, are running away from death. Like, all of the Time Lords are trying to avoid death. These humans are trying to avoid death. I know it's a little on the nose, but I think it is cool that, like, you have the same kind of theme from all of these different
I
characters.
didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Thank you.
I will say Naismith was a little too into his daughter, if you ask me.
Well,
See, a rich billionaire into much stuff.
That's not topical at all.
It was weird.
Yes, it is weird.
No. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when they mentioned Obama and all that stuff, like, being that I watched this a number of years, this episode that came out that long ago, it's weird to think that was that long ago and he was still president.
Thank you, because I forgot. I wrote a note and I forgot to mention it earlier. I find the Obama insert awkward, weird, bizarre, and should not have been done. The president has always been fake. Every time we've seen a president, he's fake.
You're right.
And then
probably because it was such a big deal.
And it was. And Davis has said that. He's like, we were all so thrilled when Obama got elected that I had to write that in and just make it a moment. But it doesn't work. He's going to end the recession tonight. No, he's. That doesn't
how
work.
a recession works.
Well, but it's just like, okay, no, that's not real. It didn't. None of it felt real at all. And now you've you've dated this to such a specific time and place. So if you watch it today, you should be able to still not feel so
like
dated. That really is a specific date.
Well, and even the characters in the show kind of have a sense of how ridiculous the idea of ending a recession, like ending a global recession, that the president could do that, in one night. Like, even they're kind of incredulous.
Do you get
Some
that
of them.
feeling? Because I don't.
Maybe not all of them. Like, there are some that believe it, but I thought there was one or two characters that, and maybe it was just me reading into it.
Guys, maybe?
No, because they were hopeful about it.
Yes, and the owner of the food truck were very hopeful about
Yeah.
it. Donna and her family talk about it.
Maybe they were a little
Donna
more.
was just like, that'll happen. I can't quite remember.
But because it is so ridiculous, like,
It's
why make it that? You could have any other reason to have
Yeah.
the president giving a national,
And you've got
international address.
You know, at the time, you got this new president who was real that we did put a ton of hope into. And, now we look back and go, yeah, he was fine. I mean, he wasn't this God's gift to the presidency. Every time I watch this, I get uncomfortable because it's like, Obama's not a god.
He's writing it from the high of the election.
Yes, he was writing it from the
Yeah.
high. He wasn't writing
Every
it from
time
a real
I watch
place.
it, I just can't believe that's who they chose to be his lookalike.
Right. That was true. And to me, it was the pronunciation of his name.
Barack.
Barack. Yeah, well, that's,
But that was Trinity Wells, and she is who she is.
Everybody said it.
Really? I thought it was just Trinity.
probably-
And now you're President Barack Obama.
Oh,
What?
maybe that's how the British pronounce it.
Yeah, it
I
just
bet
seems
you it
odd.
is.
Threw me out. The reason it seemed to really be there was because then they can show the President of the United States as well as China
Yeah.
and others. But they built so much for the president. You could just shown them like the other ones did
the
later
fact
on.
is that it was current. If it had something, if they were pinpointing a moment in time when Obama did something, like because they used Churchill, they used historical figures,
Right.
But because it was our president at the time, and he was using, because basically after these two-parters over, why doesn't Obama just save the recession again?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Deleted.
Right.
Two of Naismith's scientists are aliens in disguise who want the gate for themselves. The Doctor and Wilf arrive at the Naismith estate, and the Doctor easily identifies them. They explain that the immortality gate is a medical device that can not only heal a person, but can heal a whole planetary population at the same time. The Master fixes the gate, but to his specifications. As the gate begins to function, the Doctor sees the alterations and runs to warn everyone. The Master jumps into the gate, which transmits his template to every human on the planet. In the silliest, shaky head effect.
It wouldn't have been as silly if it didn't last so long.
It goes on forever.
The effect worked, but it was just
It's
was,
only one of those effects that would have worked briefly.
Yeah.
Extremely briefly,
They
like from
sat
one
on
person.
it, and then you could see the Obama actor is clearly not Obama. Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stick on that.
But I will say, this is where John Smith, I have to appress him. He dresses
That
up
poor
in
man.
every
Oh, yeah.
costume and
yes.
does
I already got
them.
paid for every one of those parts.
It's crazy. That press conference scene in the White House, that was directed by Julie Gardner, the producer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting to see the behind the scenes because they lock off the camera and he sits in every seat and there's a green screen behind him when he goes in every seat. I'm like, good Lord. And all the wardrobe changes.
But I think he says the hardest part was the laughing destroyed him. He just was laughing for days and days and days on end, and he just was going nuts with it. And to be like, I'm a different person, I have to laugh a little bit differently. And then they go outside and they're shooting him, in a courtyard, and then they're shooting him on these buildings.
Yeah.
Really, wow.
Here's another one of my references to a past episode, in that the gate, transforms people into the template that it has, similar to the nanites in Empty Child, the Doctor Dances. So the same idea of a medical device trying to heal and using an incorrect kind of template to do so. So to me, that seems like it was being reused again. And that all the people's dreams came from this point. Wilf seeing the Doctor laugh. Because we see that scene in real time now when the Doctor's laughing.
You mean the Master?
Oh, sorry, Master, thank you. When the Master's laughing as he's fulfilling his plan now and sending it out. And that's the scene that we've seen since the beginning of the episode. So that reminds me of Fires of Pompeii, when they're saying that the effect comes before the cause, because the time ripples backwards. And that's how in Pompeii they were able to understand Donna is a noble woman and he comes from Gallifrey. They got all that information because of time.
Oh,
stream
so were
traveled
all
backwards.
the dreams that everyone was having was because
This moment.
Yeah, but the reason everyone on the planet was having them was because they will soon be turned into him.
Yeah.
So that memory was sort of like leaking back into their physicality.
Exactly.
I didn't get that.
No,
And that's what the Ood were picking up on, too. But they're picking
No,
up on for
ood,
different...
not ood.
Oh.
no, thank you, because I think I had put that dream happening across the universe because of the Ood, but now it makes sense that they were
Right.
just picking up on that that directed towards humans. Okay.
Because that was
Thank
almost
you.
like they
Yeah.
were dreaming about the last moment of
Yeah.
their existence.
When-
That's creepy.
When the Doctor first made the TARDIS disappear out of second at a time, it was, why? And why don't you always do this if you want to protect the TARDIS? You know, and then it came to me going, he's dealing with the Master. He's trying to hide it just from him. Not,
Right.
Won't do it very often. So that answers my own question, which made me think, I wonder if other people are thinking that. Let me at least go through my
that's a good
process.
point to
Here
bring
you go.
up.
Yeah, but I agree that the Master is the foe that would take the TARDIS.
Yeah.
He would know how to. He
Yes.
would know how to
Right.
get into it.
Well, he has
And
before.
has.
And he has, yeah.
Because the TARDIS is surrounded by a perception filter, plus you can't break into it at all. So when it's just around humans, it's safe. It's not around the Master.
Another thought I want to know how many of us or how many people listening had was, in a world full of masters, how long would it be before the masters turned on each other wanting to be the only master?
Yeah,
That's another problem I have with the episode, is that these masters are subservient. No, they're the master.
Or is it just because it's all new and they all know, okay, I still have to do this job at the moment to get the plan done, so I concentrate on what my parts, everyone's concentrating on their part of the puzzle. For now, I mean, it's literally a day, so.
But it's the master. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And that's the rationalization that, Frank said to me and that I accept. But at the same time, it's pretty weak to me. Because the other, especially the masters who are around the master,
Yeah.
would be
Yeah,
quickly.
I thought the same
Why
thing.
would they need orders? Because they're going to think the same way at this point. They're just so close to
Because
being
it's a
born.
television show.
No,
you
no,
know, to get
exactly.
that,
That's the whole
Yeah, yeah.
But they're
flaw
not. They're
in it.
not a
Yeah.
hive mind, though.
And I kind of rationalized it as he was having fun. It worked, and he's in that high of his plan working.
Yeah.
So each one of them is just having fun with pretending the role. Now look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. Like, I think the larger problem I would have had is 6 billion voracious masters who need to eat everything, like having the self-control to keep doing this plan.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if that translated or not in being fixed, in that he's the only one who's still ravenous, but the other ones weren't.
Not
So I'm
until
not
part
sure.
2,
Oh.
when they see Donna, and then they
They
also
look at-
say that they're
Right.
hungry, but they don't have the skull thing, so
yeah, it's different.
they are different.
Yeah, because they
And they go back.
They were physical bodies that he just changed, as opposed to being brought.
Like, do you
back.
think that they all are Time Lords with 2 hearts?
No.
They're
Oh,
humans
yes,
that.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they turn the humans.
Yes, because they said that was part of the
That's all in their head.
amplification.
It's all in their head, but they're physical.
No, but it was the 4-beat.
Okay. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really make sense when you try
Yeah,
to
yeah.
It's
apply
one of
the
those you
scientific
just have to go
method.
with.
It's
you
a
know,
show.
When you ever
yeah.
think about it, it's flawed in how it's
Yeah.
the delivery of it. But
Yeah, I never thought about that. It's not
It
important.
doesn't really matter. There's one shot of it's in the control room with the 4 masters at the computers, and then there's one master behind them that has this one look. I forget exactly when it is, but his look is just so, like, it seems like he's worried for somebody on screen, like that's not one of the masters but a different character, and it just made it too human. Like, it was like, oh, he's like worried about what's going to happen to this other character, but I mean, maybe it's just me reading into it, but that was one where it really broke down. Like, the personality of the master was not in that guy, like master number 6 in this shot.
People begin to change, being repaired by becoming the master. The Doctor places Wilf into the nuclear vault, which shields him from the altering effects. Over the entire world, every human is becoming the master except for Donna, who is watching her mother and fiancé change. This causes images of her experiences with the Doctor to come flooding back, causing her incredible pain.
Jamie's rejecting her biotics.
See, this is again what I'm not so clear of. If that was just a fail-safe monitoring system, why was it lead-line nuclear-proof?
Because if something does happen, it's to contain all the radiation, so it does have.
Okay.
And the operator would die, but no one else would.
Oh, okay.
It does not make sense.
No.
All right.
In my mind, I'm like, go get Gadget. Have him just...
Right.
Put one of those chambers somewhere else without a person in it, and just put the radiation into that if something happens.
Right. That's what I
Yeah.
don't.
It's just every 17 hours he has to put in 4, 8,
Right.
16, 17.
And then move the island.
A man announces that the human race has ceased to exist, but he says this day is bigger than that. While addressing a huge assembly before him, he proclaims that this is the day the Time Lords return. For Gallifrey, for victory, for the end of time itself.
For all the spit.
Suffering succotash.
I kind of liked it.
I love the ending.
yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that ending.
I really enjoyed
He
it when
really
it,
sells
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
When I first watched it, and then the reveal, you see like the council. I was like,
Yeah.
that's great.
I remember watching.
I like the early one too, where it's like it's just dark and it's just panning around behind him, and then all of a sudden
See the-
you just see
yeah.
the two Gallifreyan dressed Time Lords, and it's like, whoa!
It's like, I recognize those headdresses. What are they doing here?
Wow!
Yeah, I remember watching this originally and just being blown away. Like, what? The whole mystery of what that could possibly mean, and how is that even possible? And
It was great to see the Time Lords again from somebody who had watched the classic. And I'll know if somebody who hadn't seen that, if that makes any impact, or just like, who are these people?
yeah, I mean, I didn't know much about I didn't know anything about the classic except for, like I've said before on our podcast, Tom Baker on Starlog magazine. It was all new to me.
But if you only knew the modern show, they're constantly talking about the Time Lords.
But would you have gotten it that it was them?
He says
You know?
it.
No, I mean
But he
by the
says it.
visually, but
No.
visually we had gotten it.
It's a
not
double
at all.
whammy. It's a double whammy when you know, but otherwise it's just because Timothy Dalton is saying it, and then it's like, wow, that's a fashion choice.
To me, the whole scene looked a lot like Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Senate.
It did.
Yeah.
But
I couldn't see E.T., but oh well.
And I think they've used that
He
image.
went home.
Also, about the vote of the council, or is that coming up in the next episode?
think
They use that scene.
Next, I think.
I think it's next.
But they show it here, and that's where another reference to a past episode comes in. Because I think it's in this scene where they have the 5 Time Lords. So in that very last scene, they're showing the High Council, and this is the result of the vote that's coming up. And it's the last kind of reference to another episode that we've seen. And there are 2 women there, and they have their hands up against their eyes like the weeping angels. So in Blink. So that is a nice little, what?
or Fires of Pompeii, like we mentioned.
That is true.
Do you guys like the master race?
Yeah.
yes.
That was a
Yeah.
good.
I,
that was a
I
good-
think
Yeah.
that basically that was a joke that they've been waiting to write an episode about forever.
Yes.
Well, and I also think that when they were filming it and they went, look at that spit, that's acting.
Yeah. According to Gary Oldman.
Really want to say to them, please don't use that. But that's just me. Again,
Well, they
visceral,
had the backlight
primal.
just to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, they wanted you to see
Oh,
all of
well,
it.
I never thought of that. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Some production stuff. The Vinvaci, they were digitally greenified. You can tell.
Oh, I was wondering because there was sometimes that
Yeah.
the guy seemed a little
Yeah.
regular fleshy. So what's up with that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention seeing some of the Doctor Who confidentials. You see them, and the inner part of their face is still flesh colored.
Oh, really? I haven't watched those yet.
Yeah.
That was the original conceit, is that they're flesh colored like human flesh tones, and then it slowly transitions to the green. On camera, it looked like they were just wearing a weird green wig. So then the mill went in and painted their full face and anything flesh colored green to match.
And I thought they did a really great job.
Oh yeah, overall I thought the makeup looked
Yeah.
good.
Another thing behind the scenes is, well, maybe it'll come back second episode. But, they made John Sim masks of the Master smiling, like so the
Extras.
far background extras would be wearing that, so they wouldn't have to do all the digital
Oh.
composition.
That's smart.
But it was kind of freaky, and they gave Sim one of them.
Oh yeah. Weird.
All right, so the end of time part 1. Who is this episode good for? Or more specifically, this episode is good for who? A new viewer, a casual viewer, a fan of the show, or a diehard?
I'm going to say a fan of the show. I'm not going to say Die Hard, even though I have a lot of problems with this. It's an important episode, so everybody should see it. But you have to be a fan of the show to really be able to know what's going on and to really care what's going on.
I agree. I don't think I would use this episode to introduce anybody to the world of Doctor Who, but it is definitely one that anyone who is a fan of the show should watch.
Yeah, same here, fan. Just that I'm not a diehard, and I enjoyed it. But any less than that, I'd be like, what?
Yeah, you said it before. Too much is supposedly that you're supposed to know going into it. So put me down, same category.
I will also say a fan just because of the references and the things that we're finding in the commonality and the threads. The other thing that, for me, it makes it a fan is that it really goes back to classic Who with like the master-doctor relationship, and then they're finally in some sort of country house with the stable, which the modern show is kind of shied away from. It's more like urban and cities, where like John Pertwee was all throughout the countryside. Anyway, that wraps up the End of Time Part 1. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Allburn.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
Comment on our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
Also listen to us on your Amazon Echo by enabling a podcast skill.
All of our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell,
Sidney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer,
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.